Bassmaster has announced a new technology policy for 2025, hot on the heels of NPFL outright banning live sonar. Bassmaster has made a decision as well. And it's kind of what you thought it was gonna be. It's a limitation. Let's get to it though. Let's get to exactly what they said and what the limits will be. Then let's talk about what that means for the league. First, the number of live sonar transducers will be regulated to 1, and it must be mounted to the trolling motor at the bow of the boat. Second, Elite Series and Classic competitors will be limited to a total of 55 inches of screen. Listen now, including bow and dash head units. Third, Elite Series and Classic competitors may now have only 1 electric motor mounted to their boats. This is kind of a side concern, not directly related to forward-facing sonar, but some other things like long lining and trolling that were becoming difficult to enforce. Last, and this is really fascinating to me, BASS will focus on a more diverse Elite Series schedule, creating a wide variety of fishing styles demanded for success. Let's unpack this just a touch. Bass fishing, competitive bass fishing, is very similar to my other hobby, jiu-jitsu. These are participant-driven sports. Here's what I mean. Nobody going to the Bassmaster Classic, or very few, maybe the wives, but nobody going to the Bassmaster Classic doesn't also fish themselves. A lot of people that watch the NBA, the NFL, or Major League Baseball don't actually play those sports. But no one who's paying close attention to competitive bass fishing isn't chunking and winding on the weekends at the very least. Jiu-jitsu is the same way. Nobody who goes to a jiu-jitsu competition is going because they just want to watch jiu-jitsu. If you don't do the sport, it's boring as hell. If you do, you love it. You want to see the technique. Bass fishing is exactly the same way. They're even structured very similar for competitors. In bass fishing, you have entry fees. Sure, they sell tickets. Sure, people come to the weigh-ins. All of that stuff, their sponsorship, that's all fine. But at the end of the day, the anglers have to pay to play. Jiu-jitsu is also the same way. You go to a competition by the IBJJF and you pay an entry fee. Do they sell tickets? Yeah. Are there concessions? You bet. But ultimately, the competitors are paying for the opportunity to compete and to win a medal. Bass fishing has the exact same structure. So these are very similar sports driven by people who participate in them at least on the hobby level. That last point, that BASS will be focusing on a more diverse Elite Series schedule that requires a more diverse skill set from the people participating, is very interesting. That means different lakes, different systems, different types of water. They don't want the types of tournaments that can only be dominated by forward-facing sonar. It's an interesting assertion, but what is it going to mean in practice? That I don't know. We'll have to wait for the release of the schedule. What I do know is that as the recognized leader, at least from the standpoint of name recognition, Bassmaster couldn't be very decisive here. It was just not in their best interest. They couldn't say, hey, we're not gonna do this anymore. All that sponsorship money, I don't want that, go away. Forward-facing sonar is banned. They couldn't do it. They don't hate money, they need it. They need the money influx from those sponsors, and that's fine. We want the money in the sport so that people can compete. They also couldn't say, wild, wild west, baby, as much as you want, go to town, because the people that watch this, the participants in the sport on a hobbyist basis, they didn't want that. So on one side, you've got the corporate interest. You need that sponsorship money. On the other side, you've got folks that participate in the sport and watch it. These two things work hand in hand. Without fans, you don't have a sport. Without corporate sponsorship, you don't have a sport. You need both. As the largest name in bass fishing, Bassmaster couldn't be any more decisive than they were. The last line of this press release is the most exciting to me. I can't wait to see the schedule. I can't wait to see how they deliver on this promise. Things are really getting interesting.